Hey folks, it's Ben. I'm here with a probably dual channel release for Turbo 231 and for Red Barn Homestead. I'm going to be building today a swing picker. Now, a swing picker is used to process wool. So you have a sheep, you shear it, so you have this fleece. You wash that fleece and you let it dry, and then you typically, if you can, you pick it, which means you actually take the big chunks and you separate them. Now I'm going to insert a picture hopefully in this video if my editing skills are awesome, which they're okay. We'll throw a picture right now of what one looks like, and I've looked at them online, so I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing. Plus I know how to work with wood. We're so far in it for 40 bucks. These things sell for about 600 online. I'm not building a $600 quality one, but I'm building one that hopefully in principle will work. We've got two 1x6s, spruce, and two 1x4s. And then I have approximately 300 nails here. And what the picker does, long story short, is you have a whole bed of nails and then you have another bed of nails that swings back and forth, and you put the wool in there and essentially shreds it apart into nice fine pieces, hopefully knocking dirt out of it and also stretching it out. So then you can put it in the carder. From the carder you get a bat. From that bat you can make, dryer balls or spin it into wool thread essentially. That sort of thing. So it's one of the processes that we don't currently cover. So we're going to build one. Like I said, I've seen a couple online, so we're going to go with that. This is a video covering this. It'll be bits and pieces. I'll show you kind of how I do stuff, but you won't have to endure me putting in 300 nails into a piece of wood. But I think the first step I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to build this thing to be approximately 10 inches wide. So we'll use our 2x6s in this regard, and then we're going to line them up, and we're going to mark where we're going to drill holes for the nails, because I know that these nails, and this is a 3-inch, just a bright common nail, it'll actually be driven through the board like this, so this will actually be the part hanging out. Now some designs that I've seen actually have it bent over at a degree, and so we've got a numerous amounts of bending we have to do as well. I'm going to tag at the end of this video a channel of a guy who built one off a design. I don't necessarily like all the way he did things, but there are some things I do like, so I will give him credit for that at the end of the video. So what I'm going to do is essentially cut 6 10-inch sections of this 2x6 here, and then I'm going to get a long clamp and compress them together, and then we'll make our markings. Then I'll find a drill bit that's a little bit smaller than the nail, so we won't crack our board when we put it in, but we don't, it'll be nice and tight in there anyway, and I've got like 300 holes to drill, so that'll be fun. And then we'll build the base and then the swing arm. So bear with me, and I'll get this cut up and I'll show you the clamp assembly next. I avoid using any knots on the board, so I've been taking my masterpiece here and finding a good section that's not covered in knots and just marking it and then cutting it with the saw. I need 6 total, or yeah, 6. I've taken the boards of the 6 that I made that are similarly sized and put them together. So these will end up being our base boards, and these will end up being the swinging boards. These are a hair shorter than these because I'm great at cutting wood. And so now the object is to put nails in here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and go for the generic 4 rows per board. And what I'm going to try to do is, I was originally going to try to put 10 here and 9 on those because they have to intermesh, right, between the ones that don't move and the ones that do. But math says, why don't you make them 9 on the bottom and 8 up here, because the math will be easy. Because now I can just take my tape measure and measure 10 inches across here, start at the 1 and mark those lines off, and then I'll stretch them out. And so I'll have my easy to do 9 rows, and then I'll have 8 on the swinger here, which won't be as easy math, but it'll still be pretty easy. I can mark down 8 rows, so I've already pulled mine to make sure I had enough nails, and I grabbed like 3.5 pounds of these guys, and I was like, I don't know if that's enough. It's okay. I mean, I've got a small pile left over here, but here we have 3 sections of 9, and then we have 3 sections of 8. So I got lots of nails to play with if I mess something up. I'm also going to do a prototype nail through this board, to determine the best hole size to drill in the board so that the nail still has some force up into it, but it's still, you know, gonna hold tight. And then I'm also gonna build a little tool I'll show you to bend it over, because I think I have it written down inside, but you've got to bend some this way, some of these this way and that way, and so that when you operate the swing, that the wool eventually makes its way out the end there. So you put it in here and it gets picked and then sent out on this way. So now I'm going to mark these up with pencil, and probably that these are the bottoms, and this is 1, 2, and 3. This being the front of the machine, this being the back, and then I'll mark those out, and then kind of compare my lines together, make sure that we are in the center of these. And then I think we have the laborious task of, after we do our practice piece, to drill, what is it? 8 times 100,000 holes? Yeah, that's what we're doing. Cool. I've already lied to you. So bottom 1, bottom 2, bottom 3. By setting an inch apart, what we end up is with 1.5 inches on one side. I'm thinking, oh, that's gonna look weird, but the reality is we're going to be bending the nails over as well. So this actually works out just fine. So if we do an inch spacing, inch from the edge, and so bam, 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 then we have 1.5 inches, but we're going to be bending the nails this way. So that's what that arrow denotes. So this is bottom 1. Bottom 3, same thing, but in the other direction. So we have 1 inch, 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 1.5 inches, all nails pointing this way. Now this middle board is a little bit more problematic, because the ones I've seen online, and there's not a lot of information on the best way to do this. So what I've done is I've gone 1.5 inches. So now we have 1 inch, inch, 3/4 of an inch, so we can give ourselves a little bit more space, and we'll bend this set of nails this way. So we have most nails pointing this way, but designs have them this way. I've also seen some with straight, especially on the box sliders, but this is not a box slider. This is a swinging arm kind. Now, there's the swinging arm. Here's my clamp again. We'll move it down here, clamp it down. This will be 8 rows. So there'll be 8 of these lines. And the only rows that really matter are the ones across the boards. Like once I got those lines across the boards, then you can just run the boards individually, because it doesn't matter if my row goes like this, right? It doesn't care about the other boards as long as the spacing here is correct, because our swinging arm is going to come down through here. And so that needs to be consistent. We have a 1/2 inch tolerance on either side, so even if we're over 1/4 inch, we still should be good. So there we've got the lines drawn up. They're on the 1/2 inches, of course, and per our sample board here, they slam right in the middle of where they're supposed to be. A little bit offset there, but once again, that's cool. It's within tolerance. I'll do my 4 cross lines, and away we go. Here's the swinging portion. Now, the orientation of the way the nails are pointed, I'm going to try different. I didn't draw an arrow on this one. But these are all going to be pointed towards what I call the back of the machine, where the wool will hopefully come out. The center one is all pointed in, and then this one is all pointed out towards the back again. So we have back, in, back. No alternate switching like we have on the there. Pretty simple. We're 8 across, 4 wide, lots of holes to drill. Now, how big of a hole do we drill? Well, our nail is an 1/8 inch nail. So I tried a 3/32, which is a little bit tighter. I happen to have a nail kit, a drill kit here. So I've got all the sizes and they're all nice and sharp. So that's handy to have. So a 3/32 hole works, but it's quite hard to drive through. So if we went up to a 7/64, which is just under 1/8, it drives pretty hard, but it's not too hard. So looks like we're gonna be successful with that. Now you notice I've got it built at our 45, and that's our angle. How do you do that easily? Well, the YouTube channel linked at the end of this one here, what he did was he actually took just like a 2x2, and I drilled a slightly bigger hole, 9/64 right there. So it's a little bit bigger than an 1/8. And drilled it in the center and made sure my drill was set long enough that it was longer than the nail that stuck out of the wood. And I'll try to demonstrate it here. And I cut a 45 at the hole. And if I showed the other side, it would say 45. So what you do is you come and you put your hole in down, and then you just bend it down with your piece of wood to the 45. And then you pull out your piece of wood and boom, there's your angle. And you'll be able to, it's not quite but you don't need that. This is the business end, right? So you should be able to, once we fill this with nails, pop this thing in, pop it down, bam, bend, bam, bend. Ought to be able to rock those out fairly quickly. Just making sure, and this is the part by hand, is that you have them all pointed that. Now, I'm starting to see why they might glue these nails in, is like with this one, I can turn it. And so during the operation of the machine, if you get any of these heads to turn, that could be a problem because now we're going to be hitting each other, right? The good side is though I can align them. But what I was thinking what I could do is on this side of the nails is we could lay some sort of glue across this, either a wood glue or any glue, or even just a paste of JB Weld and just take a Bondo spreader and just across them so that they wouldn't move. I got my drill press right over there. I got the tunes over there that I'll hit go with. And I'm just gonna go, and everywhere there's a cross, we'll sink a hole. And then everywhere, I'll show you when we're done with the holes, and then it's hammer time, and we'll put those nails in. I completed one board with the nails just to make sure it's repeatable, because I've got 6 of these things to do. Well, 5 now, right? And so it worked out fine. However, a note, I had kind of talked about doing a 7/64 hole, but I actually went up to 1/8, which I didn't write down here, but 1/8, because that's the size of the nail, but it's still tight enough that it goes in kind of hard, and I'm not worried about rotation too bad, and we're probably gonna have to do that glue thing anyway. So now we've got bending, so I'm gonna make sure it can bend. Now it's a 2x2, but we'll have plenty of space to, once we get the first row bent, to then bend the second row and bend this one over, and yeah, that's it. We're gonna have to bend this row over, and then we can bend that row over, and we should be able to do that. Let me tripod you and show you how it's done. I might have to come in and do a little hand tweaking, but it's fairly repeatable. I wonder if this back one will bend now. That's the question, right? If I do this one. I see. This could be an issue. Nope. Perfect. Inch spacing was great. I couldn't go any closer though. "204 holes and nails and bends later." Here we go. So we've got our top and our bottom. Now, the bottom's easy. Just like we said, we got these pointing back, these pointed forward, and then on the top, which will actually be flipped over, we have 2 pointed towards the back of the machine, and this set pointed that way. Only one casualty, we did split this board. That's why I went with the 1/8 hole, because I was worried about that, and this one eventually did crack. And the issue comes when you're bending them, right? You get stress on that. And so what I had to do was I just put 2 little, at this point, just holder downs, and then I used the clamp, my big clamp here in the center, and I was able to bend those. There should be no more stress on that, and when we coat this with an epoxy glue, whatever, that will also help reinforce that. But it being screwed to the structure will also keep it in place for now. So, and because it's going to be hanging essentially, like so, and there'll be holes on the side, there's actually not a lot of strain on that part, so it'll be okay. So that's that. So now we got to build a frame for this thing. So that's part B, I guess. That's coming up. So what I'll lay out now is, now that we're done the hard part essentially, we've got to build the base. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to build a 1x6 box of indeterminate length. I'll probably put 2 lengths of board and then end caps, and they'll be they'll be 10 inches, just like these here. They'll be 3/4 of an inch times 2 is 1.5 inches. So they'll be 11.5 inches wide. And then the 2 lengths, which will be whatever that is, that should be 5.5. Actually, with the 1/2 inch gap, we're talking 6, 6, 6, so that's 18, plus 6 on the other end, so we're about 2 feet. So about 2 feet by that 11.5, and we'll have a quick box built, and then we'll be working on the mast. Oh, we're getting in the home stretch. I can feel it. Once you get the stupid little nails done, you're really winning here. So I figure if you're doing a project like this, you know how to build a box, so that's no big deal. But we are exactly where we're supposed to be. Bottom 1, bottom 2, bottom 3. And so they barely fit perfectly in here. Now, to be a swinger, we're going to need to build an upright. And to determine where these go so that they'll properly mesh with our top swinging part really depends on how high we go. If you were to make a very low one, that's going to cause more of an arch. And at 6 or 5.5 inches long, we don't have a lot of bend to ourselves here. So we're going to have some miscarry if we go too short. So we actually want to go up fairly high. I'm thinking maybe 2.5 feet up, you know, up in this direction high. If I back up, it would make more sense, wouldn't it? We definitely want to go like maybe 2.5 feet up. And that would give us a fairly, whoops, sharp little guys, a fairly flat plane so that our arch here would be fairly tame. And what I'll do is we'll build our masts up here, and it'll be center for this guy, right? Like this bottom one will stay flat because it will be the bottom. And we'll just make sure our spacing is correct for this, no matter what angle we put it at. And no matter what height we put this one at, this will be where it's located, right? Put this on the end, 1/2 inch gap. That's where this guy lives, right? So we'll mark that center. If I had a pencil, I'm going to mark center here, and this is where we're going to put up our 1x4. I wasn't kidding when I said we were in the home stretch with this thing. So the box, and then doing the math out as to where the center should be based on the spacing of the front one, and then the center one, dead center on the pipe there. I went up 30 inches on these 1x4s up top, and we put a cross brace across the top here, and I'm just using Robertson screws, pre-drilling everything, so we get some bite into that. And then like 3 holes here. You could use bolts as well. Might go back and do bolts, depends on how hard I find this thing gets worn on, right? So our pipe was 5/8, so that's great. So 2 5/8 holes, it's a snug fit, which is perfect. And I've got some wire that's tied up there. And I'll bring you on down to here, where we're gonna go ahead. We hooked it up to, it's gonna be, need a little lower than that, Chief. The top plate, the top of the bottom plate needs to be here. So this will be where the top of the plates go. We'll just go for a swing. Try not to be too crazy. Slide it over here and do the same. Top of the plate. And that gives us our approximate dish of where we need to be. So the panels are in per the arch that I drew. The top of the line is on the top. So that kind of goes along the top there. So that's our nice little arch based on our height of our beam here. 2 screws per, no glue yet, because this might not work because I don't know if it works or not. This is kind of what the internet has, so we'll kind of give it a try. If I need to invert or do something, number one, these guys actually, you can turn them. So that might work out. Or we could flip them so that there's more the other way, or switch them around, maybe, probably not. And then because of the ability for them to wiggle at this point, we can always come back later and just epoxy these in so they don't wiggle around, or peen them, or whatever we need to do on that. So perfect on that. Last phase bit is the swinger. Our build, I ended up finding this plywood here, just something used actually with some packing material I got from work. So I cut 2 strips of it. It's 4 inches by 17 long. And it's nice and thin, so it fits in our frame nicely. And what I'll be able to do is attach another 1x4 here and go up and drill another hole up here. So we'll do the T-bar thing, I guess, is what we're gonna do. So there's that. This is our broken piece that has that piece to keep it together. See the crack down the center there? And I took my essential string and pencil, and by bringing it up 3/4 of an inch, because being square like this, that gives me the gap I'm looking for on the bottom between the 2 nail plates. And I'm also, so that's cool. And that lets me draw my line. And I did it from the top of this one. So the next one here, the top of the line should match as best we can right there, if it stays in focus. Ditto on this side, ditto on this side. I've done all the lines there. So we'll have it so that the plates will be ready to go. And then the final dimension, we'll put this back in. These little, I guess I could use some more. And we'll get our final dimension as to where the center of that pipe needs to be. We'll have to maybe round the end off to make sure I have enough space for the rotation. And I might need to come in with the jigsaw and cut that out because that'll be hanging out extra. We'll see when we do it. How'd I get so far ahead of you guys? I don't know. Where were we? We were measuring the length of this here. So it ended up being 21.5 inches, was a comfortable size between it sitting 3/4 of an inch up on its square base and a little bit of clearance for the hole here. So I cut 2 of those, attached them to the base, and put this cross beam in to give it a little bit extra support. And while it was sitting on those, I also kind of, I took my drill bit and went through the hole and poked a hole there and poked a hole here so I knew where my other holes would go. Pulled the assembly out, built it with the drill holes and all that stuff, and stuck it back in there and hoped for the best. And how'd that work for me? Fairly good, actually. You make sure that the nails are all fairly straight on both ends. This crack is cracking open a little bit more. It's under stress, so I guess. The clamps keep everything in motion because I'm like, well, does it work? Initially, no, it didn't. You gotta kind of tweak it left and right. And that's where this bearing area thing's gonna need something. I'm gonna end up having to washer out or pin out so it doesn't wiggle back and forth because I only have 1/2 inch. So super, there you go. That's the fundamentals on how to build your own swinging picker. The tweaking I'll need to do now, and this will be in the "This is how it works" video, will be number 1, epoxying the nails down. They're a pain because they move, right? The other issue I'm having is my bottom is the swing part's a little tweaked. And what I mean by that is, see how the nails are a little bit off on this side, but on the back they're right on the money, dead center. So that means I've got to get this nose to come over a little bit without changing the rear, right? It's a little not square. That could be doing with these screws here to kind of tighten this one and loosen this one or something to get it to tweak over a little bit. Maybe a little shim in here to kind of square it up with the base. So when it does rock, it's super good. Like, it's good now, but see, as it gets back, it hits a little bit. So we can't do the full Monty at this point. And also I'm rocking it with my hand. I need a handle in here. So that's an easy dowel in the middle or anything, 2x2, 1x1, whatever. That would get that going. But we're there, right? Like, it's 99% cooking. Once we get that tweaking done a little bit, making sure our nails are all straight when we run it. But the epoxy will make it a lot more durable too, right? And that's where the end goal will be, is how durable is it? There's another piece I'm missing that I wanted to put in, which would be essentially a beam from here to here. To give this tower some stability. Right now it's only 3 screws, which, once again, they're not bolts. I think the ones on the internet are overbuilt. But that being said, I would like to have a piece of wood from, even from the back corner over to somewhere up here. The higher the better, the more leverage you get to kind of seal the deal, right? To make that so it's not gonna go anywhere. So tweaking the base, gluing the nails, that's important. And it doesn't matter how small that hole is. Like I said, no matter how big the hole is, they turn, whether you want them to or not. So they need to be glued in. So that's one thing I've got to get done. The handle to move it, and that extra support piece. But I'm leaving this video here with that. This is how you build a swinging picker for wool. I will let you know, obviously, in the how it works video in regards to the nail orientation. Is this good or bad? Did it work out or not? But yeah, each end of it. It looks good like this, but otherwise, no. But if you have any questions, ask them. If you have any comments, feel free. I don't know if this video will be amazingly popular or a dud. Who knows? But leave some comments, a like if you like it. Subscribe to my channel. Either one, Turbo 231 or Red Barn Homestead, for more exciting videos and woodworking videos like that. And I'll see you next time. I don't really have a time lapse for the Turbo 231 guys, so I'm just gonna, we'll just swing it back and forth and call it good.